So the kids are bored and they need something to do in class. Some are falling asleep in the back, and you don't want an administrator to walk in when the kids aren't doing anything. Don't worry about it. I've got you. The angry teacher is going to show you 3 examples of what good activities are to keep your kids interested and engaged throughout the lesson. Hang around. We got you. Hey, welcome back to The Angry Teacher. I'm Richard Williams, The Angry Teacher. Today we'll be getting 3 great lesson plan activities that will help take your lesson to the next level. Kids will be engaged, they'll be learning. Sometimes they won't even realize they're learning, but you look like the boss. Hang around, we're gonna learn something today. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to like, leave a comment down below, subscribe, and hit the bell so that you can tell whenever there's going to be another video to help you be the best educator you can be. Come on, let's get into this video. So here it is. I'm going to give you about 3, it's mostly 2, but there's a variation in one of them that I'm going to call it 3 lesson plan activities that you can do whether the first week or throughout the year. And it's something that I'm sure you're familiar with, but never underestimate the power of the classics. I am a great fan of CRISS strategies, and these come from that bag of CRISS strategies because they work. They're tried and true, and it works. That said, there's a list here on my slides that I'm going to talk about at some point, but I'm not going to go over this slide initially because I don't want to bore you to death and read all this stuff to you, so you can read for yourself. I just want you to pay attention to number 1, the first bullet for the concept maps and the 2-column charts or T-charts that we're going to be going over is that they help with higher order thinking skills and individual analytic skills. They also help students tap in to their learning, so that's why it's kind of higher order thinking. And it also goes to the lower levels, the recall and processing of information, and organizational skills. It also goes, the second to last bullet there, I want you to pay attention to, is where it says it boosts social interaction. Those quiet kids will come out of their shells. They'll either want to do the artwork or they would want to do the organization, while the other kids will do the speaking. Whatever it is, you're going to see how these can actually work in your classroom. And these actually work for every grade level, types of class, difficulty levels. It just works well. This is the first in a series of lesson plan activities that I want to do for you guys, okay? And these are some of the things that in any case, there are the 2-column charts, also known as the T-charts. Why? Because you can see here, you have the topic at the top, and then there's a line going through the section, the middle, that makes it look like a T. On either side of this T, you have whatever you want the kids to get from your lesson or the activity. So on one side, normally it's used in, I think, reading or English classes, language arts classes. So they have the word on one side or a word on one side that they're trying to learn, and then the definition of it on the next. This is a standard use of this, of a T-chart, hence the simplicity of the T, left and right. That's not much, and you already knew this. What I want you to see is when we class it up a little bit, when we add another section for it to be a higher order thinking skill strategy. Now, it is no longer 2 columns, obviously it's 3. So you can change that if you wish, or don't even use the term column, just use a chart. It's no longer a T. I don't even know what that is. Anyway, it's just a 3-column chart. So for a biology lesson, for example, you can have the term protozoa as something that they need to know for a vocabulary quiz or for whatever else you want them to do further down the line. So the first column is the term. The second column is the definition of the term in the first. And then the third are the different types of protozoa. So they'll be able to use this as a study mechanism. It gives further analysis. Oh, you mean the amoeba is also protozoa? It's not just a definition anymore. There are also types that you can add into it. It classes up their thinking ability. Not just that. Here's another example. You can go even further with the biology lesson and have them, okay, we have the amoeba, we've broken it down. We know that an amoeba is a protozoa, but we've broken it down. We had the term here, the definition, and then we can also put in a graphic. So now you're going to have to reproduce this or draw this diagram that will help with your analysis on your comprehension of whatever the term is. So that's just an example in biology that you can use for the 3-column or the 2-column charts, whichever one you want. You know the level of your kids. What you could do is start with the 2-column in the beginning of the year and kind of tack on a 3-column later. It's up to you. The next thing I want to talk about is the concept map. The concept map is fairly simple. A lot of people use it, and it's literally this. It has a concept that you want them to garner from your lesson in the center rather, and it's usually in a box. It doesn't have to be. And then you have the traits of that concept or the things about that concept you want them to garner. Simply put, that's it. This could be the beginning of something, and then you class it up. You kind of add to it. For example, this is how we do it. For a U.S. history lesson, the American Civil War, that would be your concept that you want them to learn. We have the when, the dates are here, the who was involved, and then a graphic they have to produce on their own, the outcome. These two, the why of the American Civil War and the outcome of it, are HOTS. They have higher order thinking. They'd have to pay attention to the lesson to get this. They'd have to be able to recall and know what they're talking about to add something of value, of higher thinking to that chart. Now, don't get confused. It doesn't have to look like this, like a web. I think it's a concept web, some people call it. It doesn't necessarily have to look like this. It could actually be another chart where you have more things, and I didn't get you an example of that. I apologize. It could have the American Civil War on the first column, and then all these are different columns, and then they fill them in as they go along. It's up to you. It's whatever works for you. This diagram, the way it looks here, might work for the lower grades because they like circles and lines and webs and things of this nature. This is a very good start. By the same token, this can also be something that they draw. You do not have to provide paper for them, a handout for them all the time. When they actually have to draw the circle, draw the square, now some of them it will take forever for them to do, but once they are the ones drawing and doing the circling and the writing in it and erasing the circle to make sure everything fits, they'll take it more seriously. A lot of times teachers complain that kids leave the handouts all over the place after they give them their assignment. They leave for the next class and they leave their handouts and their assignments under their chair, under their desks. This is something that will eliminate that because they know they're going to need it to study for the next exam. They know they're going to need this information. Hey, I spent all day working on this chart. I'm going to take it with me. So this might help. All right, that's the concept map. This is the last activity that I want to kind of go over with you, and it's a variation of that same concept map. It's a PowerPoint presentation. Now, some people use Prezi and all these different ones. It doesn't matter as long as the kids get the point. Now, I usually limit the amount of PowerPoint slides to three, and the first one can have your name and all that stuff, but it doesn't have to. So basically, it's 2 slides that you need to focus on. If you give them more, they will give you 50 slides and not saying anything or saying too much. With the 3, it proves to me and to them that, hey, if I have to be concise he just gave us a lesson of 45 minutes of something, I have to be concise and give you 3 slides. I'm going to make sure I know how to summarize really well and go for what's important. So here's how it works. We have slide 1, the concept. And that also, once again, could have the name and whatever else you want them to put in, all that demographic information for the purposes of a presentation. And then slide 2, it's the teacher given expression or a question or whatever you want them to pay attention to. So when they're presenting to the rest of the class, everybody will know what's going on. And then their response, their answer. What am I going to share out? Did it work? Did this answer the question? You can also come up with a rubric or stipulations. If you need help with that, let me know in the comments down below and I'll be happy to help. And this forces the hot situation. Higher order thinking, because now I have to be concise. Now I have to have paid attention to the rest of the class. You can have them do it as a group. You can have them do it individually. There is only one negative that I find with the concept PowerPoint presentations, and that's time. It will take time for them to get this accomplished. If you don't have time, I wouldn't recommend it. One, you'd have to have electronics in your room for them to be able to work on the PowerPoint. Or if you let them do it at home, it requires you letting them doing it at home. That's time restrictions, time consuming. When they come back with the information, they're going to have to share out and present that information. So once again, that's time. What I would recommend for this is that it's something that's very important. Maybe a presentation at the end of the lesson, not necessarily a regular part of your spiel for the week or for the day. It's just, okay, we've just covered quadratic equations. Now let's see if you've learned anything. Or now we've just covered the amoeba. Now let's see if you've learned anything. We've just covered Renaissance English literature. Now let's see if you've learned anything. These are things at the culmination of a unit. Here's an example that I tacked in from algebra. One thing I like is when, and we're going to talk about that later in some future videos, people talk about the use of rote memorization and recall. I find it important at some levels. Now, for them to stay at that level, that's a problem. But this PowerPoint presentation, the concept PowerPoint presentation, has both recall, rote memorization, and it has a higher order thinking in their response. So this kind of is dual purpose and it does work. So I would have, what is an algebraic expression, have them all copy it down just for their memory's purpose. As a group or as a class, everybody has their slide 1 is the same thing. The only thing that would be different on their slide 1 is their name and the group members, the date, all that stuff. But everybody will copy down or identify what an algebraic expression is. Then there will be an example that the teacher provides. The teacher will give all this stuff, and the kids will have to label each part of the expression so that we know that they understand what's going on. Once again, either as a group or individually. And then the third slide would be their working out or performing that expression, that algebraic equation, finishing it off. What does it mean? 5x minus 3 equals what? These are things that they will have to figure out once you've given them an entire equation to put together. That is up to you, whatever you want them to do. Sometimes you will run out of time with the sharing out part, and so I'll have them email it to me or leave it on my desktop so that I can check it for them to see if it makes sense, and then maybe one of the class openers. And by the way, remember the class opener was part of the lesson agenda video that I did. Go check it out. In any case, you can have them, we can go back in the one day the following after they've emailed it to me. Hey, one group did such and such. Is their answer correct? And that could be discussion for about 10, 15 minutes. That could be your class opener. Nobody necessarily has to write anything. Everybody gets a grade for participation, but it's something that it can help. It can also be homework. You did this wrong. What could we have changed? Okay, so these are 3 things that I do every now and then to kind of help with my lesson activity. It doesn't bore the kids. The kids will get up and move around, and they will also socialize. They will also prove that they've learned something. One thing I like saying is make sure it's pretty so they can have their creativity on tap. They can have their learning done, their higher order thinking, learning skills come into play, and these are just some great things for you. Hey, thanks for coming to class today. Hope you learned something. Check out the other videos so that you can keep abreast and be the best educator that you can be. Let's go out there and be great. Hey, let's go out there and teach.